Enter the world where daytime animation reigns in the world of Batman the Animated Series. Using stunning visuals and outstanding storytelling, a series that redefined a heroic legend through style and mythos, giving the world the definitive Cape Crusader. With your co-hosts Vicky Ray, Joe Randazzo, Greg Johnson, David Grant, Matthew Rose, and Keith Shago as they unmask the ultimate superhero, Batman, the Animated Series, as explored by the Literary License Podcast.
Literary License Podcast, and it's Batman Week. We'll be discussing 4 episodes of Batman, and this week will be The Feet of Clay, Part 1 and Part 2, Vendetta, and Fear of Victory. There we go. I got it. Yeah,
we had a senior moment.
Talk
about me getting old.
All right. And before we get started, let's find out who's with us. We got Matthew Rose with us. Hello, Matthew.
Welcome, yes, welcome. Mr. J's finally welcome, yes.
And we got Sean Steffen with us. Hello, Sean.
Hey, everybody, how you doing?
Joe Randazzo. Hello, Joe.
Hey, everyone.
Vicky Ray.
Hi, everybody.
And I'm your host, Keith Shago. Before we get started, let's find out what we've been up to. Starting with you, Matthew. What have you been up to since last time we spoke to you?
Oh, yes, for the people that don't know, I've been trying to get here for how many are we on? 6. I finally made it on the scheduling. Yes, I'm away on holiday next week, funny enough, to America for 2 weeks. I'll be in Los Angeles and then ending up in Vegas before coming home.
Oh,
all right.
I'm actually going to be in Vegas next week myself.
Yeah, so the week after.
Oh, you're in.
I'm going to go. Everybody's going to Vegas except us. Let's
you can get married by Elvis.
Everybody go.
Yeah.
Can't go to Vegas. Let's get married by Elvis.
Yeah, go to
I heard something about the copyrights.
Disneyland, Galaxy's Edge, which is in Anaheim, which is where they run Star Wars Celebration now sometimes. But this year it's in London. Yes. Wow, so up to yes, this is the first time I've seen Batman for quite some time. The animated series. It's not that I've been avoiding it like the plague. It's just scheduling, and we've finally synced up. The only one I will admit I haven't seen is the last one. But I know exactly who that was when I looked at the picture online. This, to me, when we actually get on this, is a fantastic little trilogy of stories, but I'll let you go to the other floor because we'll start doing the thoughts in a bit.
And Matthew comes from our Doctor Who podcast, which basically we've now been featured in a BBC publication. So
it's basically the official fan group for Doctor Who called DWAS, or the Doctor Who Appreciation Society, and they've been going I think they started in the 1980s, so it's that old, like the Appreciation Society. And I'll actually get to see their president next week at Gallifrey 1, Colin Baker, who's the president of DWAS.
Okay.
Awesome.
So if anyone's interested in reading that, they can find that on our website at www.llpodcast.com. And what about you, Joe? What have you been up to since we spoke to you last?
Well, actually, just before we came on, I was texted by a producer who's asking me to consult on a screenplay for him. So that just happened in the last hour or so.
Outstanding.
So that's pretty cool. We'll see
Fingers
where that
crossed.
leads. I've been working on I've been writing a video. What I'll basically be reading over a video essay about the movie Sherlock Holmes and the Pearl of Death, which is the first appearance of the Creeper, played by Rondo Hatton. I want to hopefully get that done early next week, so that if we do get nominated for a Rondo Award again, I can put it out there at the same time that the nominations come out. I'm hoping to get the timing correct on that. Besides that, I've been watching a film noir. I've been doing 2 film noir challenges. One is a daily one is a weekly one. So I've been watching a lot of noir these last couple of weeks. Been watching a lot of Hitchcock, and now it looks like I'm going to be busy consulting on something, so that'll be actually kind of fun. It's nice to actually have that kind of work again. But that's really it. Just watching a lot of movies, working, and hoping for the next gig to pop up, and it seems that's finally happening again.
Good news.
It's very
What about
good
yourself,
news.
Sean?
Not a whole heck lot. I've been mainly kicking around working on an idea for a new project of my own in my spare time, and preparing to go to Vegas next week on vacation. And I've been watching a couple of older movies that I hadn't seen in maybe about 20 years or so. I watched the movie Jade, which I hadn't seen since it came out. That is
I want to say I've seen that.
That's a strange little movie.
Angelina Jolie.
No, Linda Fiorentino.
Oh, Linda Flair. Oh, I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah,
I
it's
remember.
It's
I
talking
didn't
about
realize
the William Friedkin movie.
We went and saw a special screening of Sorcerer earlier this week on the big screen, and it was I had never seen it before. That whole scene on the bridge is just fantastic, and it's very, very tense. But they're we and when we got back, I'm like, let's keep the freaking mood going. So we watched Jade, and yeah, that one I don't know if it was Caruso, I don't know if it was Linda Fiorentino. There is a great car chase in it, but there was something just off about it. I don't know what it was, but there was just something a little.
Joe's smiling.
Yeah, no. Joe, you have something you want to say?
I mean, I like it. It's not, I've seen worse Friedkin movies. Like, this was, it's not as good as. It's not as good as The French Connection or The Exorcist or Sorcerer or Cruising or anything like that. But when you got movies on that level,
it's just weird to be like, hey, we have Joe Esterhaus and he's going to write an erotic thriller for William Friedkin. It felt like, and it's produced by Bob Evans. So it's like Bob Evans wanted to get in on the erotic thriller game. It's just so weird.
I think Sliver was also produced by Bob Evans.
Possibly, yeah. But
I watched this realizing that Joe Esterhaus, whenever you ask him to write an erotic thriller, he just writes the same one over and over again.
And all women are either prostitutes or it's just it's just one of those things. You just watch.
But I mean, it's always the same thing. It's always
mommy issues.
It's always a really, really rich guy getting murdered by a woman who is, a sex worker or something. But it's always, it always opens with the tracking shot through the house. And the screaming rich guy who's getting murdered by a woman, and I'm like, it happened in Basic Instinct, it happens in Sliver, and it happens in Jade. I'm like, Joe
framing
Esterhaus,
is even the same in certain aspects of it.
A career of writing the same fucking movie over and over again.
Isn't that the goal?
Bless the man for it.
I was going to say that's the goal. You want to get paid over and over.
I mean, that's what happens, but that's what happens when you write documentaries. I mean, it just you can't go too far away from them.
Showgirls is the only one that actually is a little bit different from everything else he's done that I've seen, at least.
I truly love that movie. I will
kind of stood the test of the decade so far.
Cleaning up my mom's house, finding the VIP collector's edition DVD set with the pin the pasties on the stripper poster on it.
Dude, yeah, when he found
I gotta say this right now.
He went back to his mom's house. He went through his old bedroom and he found the big box set. And he pulls out the poster of topless Elizabeth Berkley. And I'm sitting there on the couch. I took a picture of him.
Full topless, full color poster of Elizabeth Berkley that you can pin plastic pasties onto her nipples with as a party game.
So he's unraveling the poster and I'm seeing what it is.
What the fuck is this?
As he's doing
the tail on the donkey.
I never really opened the set, so I saw this. I'm like, what the hell?
as he's doing that, I noticed what it was. I was like, oh, it's a topless. So I'm getting my camera ready. And as soon as he's got it open, I take a picture of it. And I was like, now I have blackmail. Hashtag cancel Sean.
Yes, you blackmailed me by holding up a topless photo of it.
Like, how
That
can you
you willingly
objectify
posed for.
women like that, you sleaze? Hashtag cancel Sean.
Objectifying women again, both of you.
Well, I mean, what else are they good for?
I am not objectifying her any more than she did herself in that movie. That's all I am saying.
By the way, her time in Vegas is officially canon on Saved by the Bell now.
I love it.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, in the newest Saved by the Bell, there is a whole episode where they talk about her dark time in Vegas, and she
Under an assumed name.
And then under an assumed name, and then she comes back and starts hitting on this guy. When she finally gets her confidence, she puts on the cowboy hat, starts strutting, starts doing the dancing, and oh god, thank God the worlds are merged.
Yeah.
I have
Saved
no
by the
interest in the
Bell.
Saved by the Bell series, but that episode, I was like, I
She
have
took
to
a
see
Slater breakup very hard. That's what I like to think. She took a breakup very hard after the
Oh,
college
boy.
years and had a wild couple of weeks in Vegas.
I think everybody has some dark times in their life they would like to remain in the past. I mean, not everybody has to share everything, you know.
I mean,
Yeah,
not
I
all
mean-
push a woman down.
Unless you tell Keith, then everybody's
Please,
gonna
Bruce,
fucking
please.
know about it. So don't tell
They
Keith
think-
shit.
I think they even referenced her shoving a woman down the stairs on the
Yeah.
episode.
You get crazy when you're mad. You shove that woman down the stairs. I think that was a line. Yeah. The only other thing I'm going to bring up. The only other thing I finally saw Possession, and
Oh, you did watch? Oh,
I did watch it. I finally
The
watched
Sam
it.
Neill film.
Sam Neill and
Yeah.
Isabella Ajanti. There's two things I could take away. My ex-girlfriend looks very much like Isabella Ajanti, and I'm glad that she did not have her personality. Thank God for that, because that is. And if you ever want to see a movie of two people just losing their goddamn minds and screaming at the top of their
Possession
lungs
is it.
for 2 straight hours, this is the movie for you. I thought Marriage Story was probably the best movie about a marriage falling apart. Fuck that. This movie is one of the most fucked up movies I have seen
Making
in
Love
a
was fucked
very
up.
long time, and I'm happy it exists. God,
Did you
Who's
see it
in-
on
who's in-
Shudder
who's
before
in
it's
Making
gone?
Love?
what?
Who's in that movie?
That's Brooke Shields, Tom Cruise, and
Yeah.
Making Love?
some other guy with what?
Making
No.
Love? Yeah, I think it's.
Oh no, Making Love is the one with Kate, Harry Hamlin and Kate
Okay.
Jackson, and
Okay.
That was a fucked up movie.
Yeah. This is
Was it?
just. I mean,
I gotta
it's
watch it now. I keep skipping by it.
disintegrate.
watch
It's a
it?
it's a
See it
disintegrating.
before it's
marriage.
gone, because I don't know how
Yeah.
long it's going to be on Shudder.
This
but
one
it's
like near
definitely
dark.
worth
It's like a rare 6
Okay.
6 week to 3 month window where you'll be able to have it, and then it'll just
Sure,
disappear.
I'll watch it tonight.
I will say it is a remastered Kino Lorber 4K remastering. So I think that we are going to get a physical release sometime. It looks like it was done recently. There's
Sam
a-
Neill's in it?
Sam Neill,
Sam
and
Neill and
Isabella
Isabella Johnny.
Vicky, we covered Possession in our podcast when we did European horror.
I can't remember everything we watched. I know I watched it. Why can't I remember this one?
Because
It's,
you're
it's
old.
a trip.
Fuck
It is
off.
an absolute trip.
You're only 2 weeks younger than me, okay?
Joe Bob's Valentine's Day special is tonight. That might end up being one of the movies.
I don't know. I
Possession.
keep hoping if that other one is the one that you thought it was, I'm really hoping that it is, because I cannot wait for the commentary.
I got
That's
a
all I'm
feeling
waiting
the
for.
second
Oh, for
feature,
necrotic.
necromantic, because
Necromantic,
Joe,
excuse me.
Joe Bob said something about he's gonna go off on a rant about necrophilia. So I'm like, oh, I'm wondering if necromantic.
Because we
I
had
know
a
if
couple
it's
of
not
guys that wouldn't do the podcast that day because they would not watch that movie or they couldn't get
Uh.
through it. And I was just like, you pussy. It's like, take one for the team and fucking watch it.
I know I missed. Oh wait, was that when I had COVID? I missed that one.
I think
don't
that was when
remember.
he had COVID. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
remember.
I missed. I think I missed that week.
I don't remember if you ended up seeing it. I kept on telling you, I'm like, oh god, you're gonna hate it.
I still got to watch the second one where she takes off with her beloved, you know? And they have a
Beloved
life
dead body.
together.
I just remember
I
something
think
about
we both be on
a small
Shudder, right?
steel pipe and some rope. That's all I
I
remember.
know. It's just like, what the fuck with the. I saw where they were going with the pipe. It's like, hell no. But
Well,
yeah,
I mean, if you're gonna have sex with a corpse, it's the only way to get it a hard on. Literally.
I guess. I was okay. I think I lost my shit with the eyeball part started. Go, that was it. I don't do eyeballs, man. That just fucking made me lose it. I was like, oh my God. But I soldiered through. Yes, I did. I thought it was hysterical in retrospect. You know what movie bothers me? Tusk. I have such a hard time watching that.
I watched it for the
I
first
don't
time
know
all the way through a
why.
couple of years ago. It's not that bad. I've seen
It's not
far
that
worse.
bad. It's just what he does to him. I guess it's like such a helpless feeling watching this guy turn into a fucking
I
walrus.
just
Yeah, I can see
couldn't
that.
connect with that movie at all. I saw it in the theater, and I was just
At
like,
the end was just really.
I guess
You're
you
gonna
have
do
to
it
be
that
in
way.
Kevin Smith's state of mind. You have to be in that. It kind of helps to be high while watching it.
Well,
You
I'm
can-
always high, so that shouldn't be a
So
problem.
it's likewise, but it's one of those things where you kind of, especially listening to the process of them making it.
What was the other one? Tusk. Oh, I was Centipede. I only got past the Human Centipede 1. I cannot get into. I won't watch 2 or 3.
I watched 2. I won't bother with 3. 2
I will not
is
watch. Was it 2 any good? Do I need to watch
okay.
it?
The quick
Someone
version.
tell me I need to.
Everyone thinks 1 is horrible. It's not that bad. It's more psychological. 2 is essentially what everyone said they thought 1 was.
Oh,
it's
so it's worse.
It's a black and white film about a literal psychopath who watches the movie as if it was really a movie.
Oh, is that what it's about? See, this
He
is how
works in
much
a
I
parking
would watch it.
garage, and he goes out and he says, "Oh, okay," and he walks out and he sees somebody and he whacks him over the head with a tire iron and he drags him to a warehouse. Repeat that process for about 45 to 50 minutes until he gets enough that he can make a 12-person centipede. Then the rest of the movie is him sewing those people together and the
Oh God,
thing-
man! Can you imagine having
It's-
your mouth sewn to somebody's asshole? I mean, there's got to be better ways to suffer.
I don't know. I know plenty of people who are married to people's assholes. Can't see much difference.
No, this is true.
Yeah.
you know, and Sean and I actually have an interesting story about Human Centipede 3 because
Bobby.
we were with Robert Zadar when he got the phone call because they wanted him to come in and play either the prison guard or the prison warden in part 3.
Initially,
He
it was the
couldn't-
warden, and then they
Yeah,
went
he
up
couldn't.
to the guard.
Unfortunately, he couldn't pass the physical.
Yeah, his knees were too bad at that point.
His knees were too bad, and they were going to have to sew him to somebody on his knees. And they were like, "Yeah, they wouldn't insure him because his knees are so fucked up."
Yeah.
And unfortunately, then he ended up passing away before anything got done with that
What
movie.
a shame.
Yeah,
I guess I'm gonna have to
Talking
watch
about
it to say I did. I just couldn't. I just can't handle the feed part.
To be honest,
That's all
I
that's
couldn't.
stuck in my head.
I couldn't handle the
Either.
acting. I couldn't handle the acting. I just thought
Well,
to myself,
at
"Was like,
least the Nazi
That
doctor in
Peter-
the first one was. I thought he was great.
What?
I loved
I mean,
him.
when
The doctor was
I
in-
remember when the first one when you had the
Yeah.
girls acting before they sewed them up. I thought to myself, I was like, God, hurry up and sew their mouth shut because they're fucking horrible.
all I know is that
victims
that
are
is the
horrible.
one time I want to be at the front of the bus. I don't care. If you want to be in front, I want to be in front.
And the guy who played the doctor, I think his name was like Dieter Laser or something. He was fascinating. He was like the perfect casted role
I'm
for
gonna
that.
I'll watch it. It's just gonna be traumatized.
yeah.
That movie traumatized me a little bit.
It's just that the victims are always people that you just want to see dead anyway. That's
Yeah,
the problem.
exactly. They're
The main guy, the main antagonist is interesting, and he makes it worth watching. And the people you just like just die already because you don't care about them. So, what about yourself, Vix? What have you been up to?
Not a lot. We're still recovering from the ice storm last week. We're still catching up on stuff we had to do last week, this week. But I did what I've watched, I finally got to watch No One Gets Out Alive. It was on Netflix. Kind of a claustrophobic kind of a movie where this girl, she's really, I think she's an illegal alien and she has to stay in this place. And this place turns out to be just one big shit show. And it's got this monster. I don't want to give it away in case a lot of people haven't seen it, but they got this monster that he feeds that comes out of a box. And he has to keep giving it girls. It's a fucked up movie. It's actually really good. I didn't think I was going to like it, but I liked it. It's kind of dubbed. I don't know which language it was supposedly in to begin with, but it was really good. It was well done. And I watched Beast on Peacock. The lion was the man eater. I didn't think that was going to be. It was actually a pretty good film. I enjoyed that. And Jungle. It was that true story with what's his name? Why can't I remember his name every time? Harry Potter. What's his name?
Daniel Radcliffe.
Daniel Radcliffe.
He plays. I guess it's the true story of these guys that were in the jungle, and it was just about how they actually survived. Well, 2 of them survived. They don't know what happened to the other 2. but it was really yeah, it was kind of different. I was trying not to watch so many, killer movies with all the death and destruction and blood. I was trying to be nice to my family. And I've been keeping up on Maker Witches and the End of Us, right?
The Last of Us.
The Last of Us.
Last
I
of
keep
Us.
thinking the end. I'm getting it mixed up with something else. I didn't watch last week's because I wanted to watch a couple of them all at once. Like
The new one's tonight, and I think they're directed by the same person as last.
Yeah,
week.
but it looks that's getting really good. I'm really
yeah.
pleasantly surprised that this took off as good as it did. It's just nice. And I like all the acting. I like the actors in it. Who can go wrong with Super Mario, I mean, he's good at anything he does.
Mm.
He's going to be saving children till 2050 in every show he's in. It's great.
Something like that.
I was trying to find Joe Bob's hints for tonight, but I could not find them. The only thing he said is he's marrying somebody while talking about necrophilia. So he's married.
He's marrying somebody.
Yeah, there was the auction during the Christmas one that you can get married by Joe Bob, and it sold for like thousands and thousands of dollars, and they flew the people out to Vegas and married them.
No
And
kidding.
Cheaper than planning an actual wedding, I guess.
He might be doing Return of the Living Dead 3. That has necrophilia in it.
Yeah.
Return of the Living Dead 3 was one of the that's on Shudder right now too. Return of the
I
Living
wouldn't
Dead
mind that
3.
one. I always like Return of the Living Dead 3. That was
Yeah, it's not saying what they're gonna put on.
oh yeah.
Yeah, because that sounds like more. I mean, he might do necromantic, but
If it's necromantic, that would be the second.
Well, if he put in
That's even
Cannibal,
more-
if he put in the full unscathed version of Cannibal Holocaust,
Yeah.
then he'll probably leave this one as is, don't you think?
Yeah, that's
Oh
what
yeah,
I was
he'll leave it as is. It's just usually the darker toned movie, the really darker toned movie is usually the second one though.
Yeah.
So you're gonna. So it could be Return of the Living Dead 3 and then Possession, or Return of the Living Dead 3 and then Necromantic, or Possession and then Necromantic. It could
Oh,
be
he
any-
did Black Roses and Frankenhooker last year. That's right. I forgot about I love Frankenhooker. A lot of people
Frankenhooker's
hate that
great.
movie. I fucking love it.
I saw Frankenhooker when it came out at the cinema. I'm
I love
aging
it.
myself. I'm aging myself.
I met Frank Henenlotter like 3 years ago. Well, it must have been 3-4 years ago by now because it was pre-pandemic. I remember I met him at an event Lloyd was doing in New York. Really nice guy, just really, really strange, kind of awkward, which is exactly what you'd expect the guy who made Basket Case and
1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, and Frankenhooker and Brain
Well,
Damage.
it's probably really hard explaining the birds and the bees through film for small children of the 80s. Got to get your sex education somewhere back then, right?
Oh man, and he hey, maybe we'll get Basket Case too. That
You
could
never
be,
know. But what else would be a good Valentine's one? I mean, other than something that's seriously fucked up like necromantic, or there's a lot of them to pick from. There really is.
We'll find out tonight.
I know. I'll be waiting.
It's why I kind of avoided watching Possession since it's been on Shudder, because I'm like, it might end up being on Joe Bob.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, well, I haven't watched that one at all, so I would like to see that one myself.
Well, I've been watching the last Evil Dead film with Jane Levi. What's her name? Jane Levy? Levy.
Levy. Doesn't depend.
Are you talking about the 2013 one?
Yeah.
We revisited it last year. We went, but we got finally got the unrated version on Blu-ray.
Which one is it?
The remake
Dead.
or the reboot or whatever.
Of
Evil Dead.
Evil Dead.
Yeah.
I did. What did you think?
I love it.
You do love
I think
it?
it's really good. I do like it a lot. I mean, the performances are brilliant. The acting's really well done. Olivares, he's a fantastic director. I mean, he did Don't Breathe 1 and 2, didn't he, as well?
Yeah.
So
I haven't seen either one of those yet.
Don't
I've only
Breathe.
seen the first one. I didn't see the second one. The first one was fantastic.
Second one's good as well. Don't Breathe.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but I like it. I'm kind of gearing up for the next installment, isn't it? Because the next Evil Dead film is
It's
going to be
coming
next month.
soon.
Evil
I
Dead
know
Rise,
it's coming in
yeah.
the next couple of months.
In March.
In March. Oh, next month.
Next month.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Right.
So I'm gearing up for that. and
Yeah, I
then
guess
I've
I
been
better
watching-
brush up on mine if it's coming out next month, so I remember everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
if you could get your hands on the uncut version of the remake, it is so
That-
gory.
I'll just say, without spoiling what happens, the money shot at the end, where with there's just glorious violence to the point of like RoboCop. It was making me think, I'm like, oh, we need more movies like this. It was like
Yeah.
Kill Bill times 100.
Oh my God, Kill
beautiful.
Bill. The one part of the Kill Bill that really fucked me up, like the eyeballs fucked me up with Dale
Yeah.
Hannah and the friggin' eyeball part where she ruins her last eyeball. It's just like, oh.
I'd love to see if they ever do a Kill Bill 3. I'd love to see Daryl Hannah as like the Zatoichi blind swordsman training the young I forget what Nikita. Or,
Yeah.
Never gonna see.
well,
it.
they better hurry up.
I don't know what
because
his 10th is going to be. It's not going to be that.
She's a lot older than we are, that's for sure.
Yeah, she'll be 70 soon, Daryl.
She looks good still,
It
though.
looks good.
And David Carradine ain't hanging around anymore.
Oh,
Yeah.
No comment.
I love you, Keith. You're the only one that laughed at that.
Poor David Carradine. He's the only man I know who can hang himself with an orange.
The humanity that just explodes through my screen once a week.
And our
But I've
next
started
one
watching,
this week is Keith Carradine.
Keith Carradine. Yeah, there you go.
The more straighter edge, brother.
Yeah.
Of course, we
I
do
get
have
the
the
last two
revenge.
confused. I get the last
Well,
two
we also have
confused.
we have the Revenge of the Nerds Carradine as well, don't we?
That's Robert, I think, right?
that's Robert. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Robert, yeah. So and that's I've started watching the 4th season of that, which that's a very good series actually. I'll give
fourth
my
I got the first 2 seasons down. It took me a while to get into it, but now it's so stupid, so ridiculous. You want to see what happens to these people. I mean,
the third
it
one's
looks like he's
fantastic.
got looks like he's marrying himself someone who likes to kill just as much as he does.
Well, this is the 4th one, so this one takes after that one. So the first part's on now. So started watching that, and that's quite enjoying that. And then been watching bits and bobs, really nothing too extraordinary. So, watched Scarface for next week. The 19th. I watched the uncensored version and the censored version, so it's very good.
There's a censored and uncensored version.
Yes, if you buy the Blu-ray or DVD. Yes,
Yeah, it's really just a different ending. So if you have like the Blu-ray or DVD, you can watch the movie straight through. Then you can watch the alternate censored ending as a special feature. I love that movie. I love both of them. So we'll get a.
Yeah. So I mean, I really enjoyed it, and it's good to see. It's good to see a movie about Vicky and her family. So it's always quite good to see that put up on celluloid. So yeah.
Hey, I not only watched the 1931, I watched the 1951 by accident. So
Yeah.
Oh,
I thought that was M. We're talking about Scarface. Dicks.
okay. What are we talking about?
Yeah. Well, do you have pedophilia in your
Scarface,
family
yeah.
as well?
Huh?
Nothing.
Scarface. Well, you know what? That was like, wow. I don't think they were really like liking on Italians a lot when they made that movie. I was feeling kind of singled out with no equity.
There was
no equity towards Italians in that movie.
God, there was I forget what movie it was, but you know how Warner Brothers on all their old DVDs, like where they show the old movies, they have the Warner Night at the Movies that Leonard Maltin hosts, and they'll show you like a Looney Tunes and a short subject and a newsreel, and then they get to the movie. And I forget what the movie was, but one of them had something where like on the title screen it said something about watching the Wops cook a traditional Italian dinner, and I was like, "Fuck!"
Really?
Like, thank you, Warner Brothers, just slapping us Italians just right across the face.
What does WAP? What does WAP stand for anyway?
Without papers, I think.
Yeah, without
official
for?
papers.
Oh, okay. Because I know Jap is like Jewish American princess.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm familiar with all those terms. My father was a huge racist, and he called everyone by something. It's like no one was safe.
It was a different world. Our parents were a different generation.
Well, my father also called. I mean, my father is Native American, so he did call white people crackers as well. So I mean, it's like, well, everyone was called something.
Back then, they didn't care who they told. They just said what they saw it. You know, I know my.
And every time my dad saw a woman with a baby, because look at that woman with her papoose.
Only in your family, Keith.
Well, it's funny. I've always found it funny. So.
No, nothing but You should be able to make fun of everybody, and they should be able to make fun of you. It's
He made fun of
gift that
everyone.
keeps
He
on
made fun of
giving.
himself. Precisely. And on that note, let's get to Batman the Anime Series, which will be doing Feet of Clay Part 1 and Part 2. Bruce Wayne is framed for the attempted murder of Lucius Fox. The real perpetrator is an actor in master disguise named Matt Hagen, who has been disfigured in a car accident years ago. In order to keep his fame, he secretly starts working for Roland Daggett, who provides him with a monthly supply of an addictive face cream known as Vicky Ray or
Shut up!
Renuyu.
You thought you were going to go with Madonna.
Renuyu that can temporarily reshape his face back to normal, and he wants to take Wayne Enterprises over for marketing expansion. For botching the murder due to Batman's interference, Haig's supply is cut off, and when he breaks into Daggett's lab for more Renuyu, he pays the price dearly when Daggett's men drench his face in the formula and force him to swallow liters of it to avoid drowning. Meanwhile, Bruce Wayne is arrested and taken to custody and charged with the assault of Fox. This brings us to number 2, where we have Bruce Wayne is released from prison on bail. Hagen, as it turns out, survived the murder attempt on him, but at a high cost. The formula entered his body and soaked every single one of his cells, turning him into a shape-shifting mutant. With his newfound powers, Hagen, now calling himself Clayface, decides to take his revenge on Daggett and his men, and Batman must bring Daggett to justice and stop Clayface before innocent people are hurt. So, Sean, what are your thoughts of Feet of Clay, Part 1 and Part 2?
I think I like Part 2 a little bit better than Part 1, but it did introduce the character of Daggett, who is kind of, I've always kind of equated him to like Slugworth to Bruce Wayne. He's just this parasitic corporate type that is always trying to steal Bruce's ideas, steal his company out from under him. It go all the way going to The Dark Knight Rises, where they had a version of his character played by Ben Mendelsohn, who who funded Bane's army and did what he did. He's an interesting character that we're going to revisit going forward. I think my expectation versus the reality of this was the version of Clayface that we got. I was thinking we were getting Basil Karlo, because the character, just the classic name, and it makes me think of the classic monster transformations. And instead we got Matt Hagen, he was the second Clayface. And also, when side thing, I just realized that the name Basil Karlo, if we want to tie it back to the original Batman, or from the 60s Batman, that was the real name of Falseface, the character of Falseface in the Batman 66 comic.
Oh, I forgot all about that.
But I think that it is a tragic case of a tragic monster transformation that you get finally in the second one. And that's what I was wanting for. I wanted to see that the horror of realizing your whole life is going behind, trying to recapture what you once had. And I felt like it was the first one was bogged down a little bit more on the industrial espionage, and I didn't really take to it as much. I think it was kind of slow and kind of.
It was kind of setting up for the second one.
It's set up for the second one, but I think that it was a little bit too. I needed a little bit more. I need a little bit more in the oomph. I felt like everything was just lacking a little bit in it, to the point that it took me out of the episode. But I think it definitely, I rewatched it this morning. It definitely came through in the second half. And I love the character of Clayface. And I think that there's so much you can really mine with a character like that. There is a lot of tragedy in his character. And
oh God, he's probably almost, besides Mr. Freeze, he's almost the most tragic, because he was like a handsome go-getting actor, and then he just wanted a little nip tuck kind of sort of, and it turned into a total shit show.
They did have
this is before he transitioned into Madonna, so I mean
that's
it's very,
right.
very stressful for him. Yes,
I think Madonna needs to stop using the Renuyu.
The odd thing about that is she would probably still look fine if she didn't do all that.
I liked her the way she was.
She probably if there was Renuyu, Madonna probably ended up looking like Lady Gaga. Maybe they are. They're the same person. Who knows?
Have we ever seen them at the same time?
No. It's like Latoya. It's like Latoya and Michael. You never
actually say
saw
yes.
them in the room at the same time, did you?
They did an SNL sketch together. It was kind of a passing the torch moment with Madonna showing up in like a coffee talk with Lady Gaga.
Speaking of SNL, you ever seen Madonna and Lady Gaga when they had them on the same time on Saturday Night Live and they started?
Yeah, that's what Sean was just saying.
I was just, yeah.
You gotta pass the torch. I mean, you know what? I mean, this is really all
Vicky,
about human vanity.
Vicky, is your hearing aid on, Vicky?
What? Is yours?
What?
I try to block you out, Keith. I'm trying to block you out.
What about yourself, Matthew? What's your thoughts about Feet of Clay?
Well, firstly, Roland Daggett, that's his UK equivalent, is Roland Daggett for America. So I apologize to the Daggett estate and to Warner Brothers who are probably listening to this. So I apologize on behalf of the DC Corporation. Keith has got us sued. So secondly, the story itself, it's absolutely, I think it's a fantastic transformation story. It's a bit like Frankenstein, and I think the whole stuff with Renuyu, it's very symbolic. It's about a failed actor because he had such a great career. He was working for crimes to get like basically addiction tackled, because the Renuyu is symbolic for drugs, because they were trying to hint like this is what happens when a downward celebrity starts to decline and they will do anything to stay relevant. I find personally Kevin Conroy's Batman is like very good. Like this, the great thing about Batman animated series, you see Detective Batman, you see comical Batman, one of the most hysterical things. And rewatching today, it still has one of the greatest scenes when he's trying to take down the Thug by literally cornering him in the tunnel. You hear like the shriek of terror, and you see him with the car and the Batwing, like him like trying to do everything he can to get information out of him, and he drops him in the swimming pool. Bell's his name, because the one with the headset, and I find the henchmen were just so funny in these two episodes. They're the ones responsible for creating Clayface, they took really big advantage of him like a guinea pig. But the best part for me from part 2 is the revelation scene where Daggett's on the television. There's this big butch type of woman literally like, oh, so Daggett, what about these rumors? And he starts sweating like a pig, and then suddenly you see him transform into Clayface after revealing that woman was him, and it's like, oh, okay, that big scary looking lady's him. I think one of my favorite aspects also was Clayface himself being shown all the past films as Matt Hagen, and it breaks his head. So Clayface is not fully formed yet in this iteration. He's literally can't control his powers. When he sees himself, it's too much and overwhelms him. I think part 2, I say, part 1 has a lot of good comedic setup and it delves into the tragic stuff, but part 2, when he's all angry in the trailer, he's blaming his friend, he abandons him. I think Hagen, out of the two Clayfaces, this one, basically, he becomes fully the monster. It's all gone. He died that night. The face transformation happened in part 1. And what I liked in both parts, you see the origin of what happened. He literally was in a car crash or something. This was like the equation of like plastic surgery. And basically, it's like was a get out of him, because I mean, one day we could have something like Renuyu, and it really delved into that insight. It's a very strong character piece. So, like, if you want to see the downside in documentaries of Hollywood actors' failure, it's a really realistic thing for a kids show. And I'd have to say the way they set up, the one thing looking back on it, I really wish they did more on the Lucius Fox side, or like what caused the whole reason of why they were setting up, because Lucius was more of an extra in the story and he was terrified, and you're like, why couldn't they build on Lucius more? But apart from that, I really enjoyed both parts.
I was gonna say Lucius also has a very strong neck. He took a 4x8 falling on his neck with guillotine, and it's just got knocked out. Not a broken neck. It's get knocked out.
Yeah. I mean, I love this show because the Joker's died so many times, and he come out next week like he's alive.
Yeah.
I mean, I found that Clayface is probably an amalgamation of Lon Chaney and Montgomery Clift, isn't it? Really, you know, the
Yeah.
Montgomery Clift when he had the car crash and kind of almost ruined his career.
Messed
So
up
that's
his
why
face, yeah.
Montgomery Clift has like two different careers. Good looking Montgomery because in the after crash.
And even if you
Elizabeth
want,
Taylor kind of took him under her wing when that happened to him. She always
Well,
took
that's
care
because
of
she
my
loves
man.
that's because she loves the gays. She loves the
did, she
gays.
did.
She's sticking Montgomery.
and even a little bit towards it's on a much smaller scale. Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill famously got in a car accident and had to get facial reconstructive surgery and had to deal with all that and the ramification. A lot of people were saying, if you look at him, I mean, they had to maul him at the beginning of Empire Strikes Back just to justify the changes to his face.
Yeah.
Look at him in the first movie versus Return of the Jedi. It's completely.
And then when you actually watch Empire, you can actually see his face seems a bit different until the mauling scene. You can sort of tell that's the makeup covering it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Also, a bit of House of Wax, a Mystery of the Wax Museum. If we're going to go directly for the movie tie-ins, that's what it kind of reminded me of a little bit. But yeah, he's definitely a Lon Chaney type because he could mold himself into whatever he needs to. I didn't put together the Montgomery Clift part until just now when Keith mentioned that. But yeah, that kind of makes sense too.
I mean, if you look at the beginning of Clayface in the comic books anyway, he came in for the 1930s. That's the first mention of Clayface. And at that time, Lon Chaney Lon Chaney Sr. was making a reemergence in his films or being re-released, the old Phantom of the Opera and all the other stuff. So I'm kind of wondering if Bob Keane was taking notes from Lon Chaney for the Clayface character anyway.
Could be.
Or if he was just a huge Lon Chaney fan, because everybody in that time period kind of was. Everybody that went into media was, because you always hear about Forrest J. Ackerman, Stan Lee, all these guys all loved their Lon Chaney movies. So that was probably a big part of it too.
And Lon Chaney Jr. was big at doing Werewolf at that time. So
he kind of took up his father's place of doing the big monster makeup movies, because he was all the major monsters except for the Creature and the Invisible Man. He was all the others.
Yeah.
So he was if there was a guy under makeup, it was probably Lon Chaney Jr. at that point.
I mean, I think another thing that's quite interesting about this story as well is that it kind of is a forerunner of where we are today anyway. When you think of now with social media and Hollywood and, body modifications and facelifts and Botox and fillers and everything like this. I mean, this episode came out before this became a thing for us now. And that's part of our everyday lives now sort of thing. So it's quite interesting that, we got Batman who's kind of foretelling what our future may be to a certain extent.
We live in Dallas and there's a med spa, almost maybe two of them, almost in every suburban town of Dallas, because, the cosmetic industry is not lacking down here at all. I mean, everybody's lined up to get their Botox or their Juvederm or whatever it is they're getting. But I mean, there's something to it. I mean, I don't know if it was so much back when they were making these. I guess there was a lot of plastic surgery emerging in the 90s.
It was happening, but I don't think it's on the extent that we are today.
But the extent that we got right now, I know we're picking on Madonna, but it's all about vanity and what Matthew said, staying relevant and you just can't stay relevant as the same person. I don't think you got to adapt.
Well, the Madonna thing is kind of a cautionary tale anyway. Her face became that way because she went and had a few nips and tucks and it got infected.
Filler, she got a lot of filler.
Got some filler, and the filler started leaking and everything like that. So she had to get her face restructured, and this is what she has now. So that's what happened to her. So it wasn't bad. Well, it is bad plastic surgery, but it wasn't because she designed her face that way. It's because this is the aftercore.
Well, there's risk with anything. Sort of like this. There was risk with it. Apparently, he didn't care that there was risk with it. He just wanted to be the actor that he was before his accident prior, and he kind of just went downhill.
And they even
And
said his best work came after the accident.
That's right. Even his friend, what was his friend there? I can't remember his name.
I
now.
can't remember his name either, but he was, I mean, let me see here.
It
But
was.
did his best work come because he was able to change his face into anything due to the Renuyu, or was it because of his acting? So
I didn't know that was Ed Asner that did Roland Daggett.
Ed Asner was Daggett, and the great Ron Perlman is Clayface.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. Yeah, you did mention that earlier.
That's the thing. I didn't even recognize his voice. Usually,
I didn't
Ron Perlman's
recognize
got
his voice
It's a
either.
little bit deeper. I'm expecting, but I mean, it's 30 years ago. It sounds completely
and
different.
with the animated series, every week Andrea Romano would went out for the best guest cast for them.
Oh yeah, I mean, he is, and also, I mean, Ron Perlman. Ever since some of my earliest memories were my mom watching the Beauty and the Beast TV show with him and Linda Hamilton. So it's just one of those things. He always plays the torture.
Oh, he was
He was the Beast.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, it was
I
hard to tell because Linda Hamilton was never beauty, but anyway.
Yeah, but again,
Yeah,
that's
but
the great
she had
thing.
something about her that was kind of, I don't know.
Well, she wasn't
had some-
beautiful. She wasn't beauty. She was. I mean, I love Linda Hamilton, but she's not. If you say name the most beautiful women in the world, Linda Hamilton is not going to come in your top 100 list.
She's different looking, I think.
Yeah.
She's
I
distinctive.
haven't seen that. I have not seen that show since I was a little kid.
I haven't seen that show in
eons.
eons. I forgot that they made that.
It's Children
I
of the
think it's on
Corn,
Paramount,
Linda Hamilton,
so-
not it's Children of the Corn, Linda Hamilton, not Terminator 2, Linda
Yeah, that's
Hamilton.
No, yeah.
No, I think this for our Batman animated series, I still believe this is one of the best stories for Clayface, especially like that cop out, that ending where he made out he died, and then you just see the shell of him, and he's that woman like hiding out. So you know he's
Right.
coming back.
But he
Performs
didn't
the
look
best
like he
scene
was
of his
hiding
career.
out. He looked like look at me, I'm fooling them all still. So you
That's
knew
what I
he was
mean.
coming
Yeah,
back.
like he knows he'll be coming back.
Yeah,
only
he
thing
didn't
I
seem
didn't
too
like-
broke up over it.
The only thing I didn't like about it was after he has this, as he put it, the greatest death scene of his career, he couldn't help but turn to Batman. You know, if I had a scene like this, I never would have went anywhere.
Yeah.
And he couldn't help himself before dying. And I'm like, he's
Yeah,
you
that
big
just shows
ham.
how hammy
You couldn't
he
help it.
was. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's
But,
the
you know,
actor in him, because most
I know.
actors are just egotistical anyway. I mean, we know, we've all dealt with actors. So like,
It's one of those things I'm just like,
form of
yeah,
egotism
ham, you
with
couldn't
some of
help
them.
yourself. But you're absolutely right, man. This is.
But I mean, I think that these two, they kind of resonates because who doesn't want to keep themselves looking youthful and whatever? And who doesn't want to be able to?
Also, that clip of the woman with wrinkles, like de-aging, that could effectively happen one day. Like you could see an advert and that could happen.
I found this kind of funny because I remember like after this episode came out, when back in 93, this came out. And didn't Resident Evil, remember the marketing campaign for the Resident Evil film? And it didn't have Mila Jovovich. It had like,
Oh, the umbrella cream. Yeah. And
the-
it slowly
the
devolved
umbrella
from
cream.
cosmetic ad to something that's more sinister. Yeah, all right. I
Yeah.
remember. Yeah.
And
What
it
was
kind
the
of came
deal?
out like right after this episode came out, which is kind of interesting actually, because it's almost like, oh, there's kind of a little bit of a weird tie-in in a weird sort of way,
Kinda.
like mixing two universes.
Hmm.
But I think, I mean, Lucius Fox, I mean, I don't know. I think we have yet to see him as a more central character in the animated series anyway. He's kind of just flitting around in the background at the moment.
He doesn't
isn't
know that Bruce is Batman yet, though, right? Yeah,
No.
he's just
I
kind of.
don't know.
No, I
Did you ever
I don't
find
think
out
that's
that
why he
animated
was terrified of Bruce, like attacking him, assuming it was him. So he doesn't know the identity, despite working for him for a decade, which is interesting because normally they have Lucius in the inner circle.
Yeah, I think because I mean, the Christian Bale series has Lucius in it from the very beginning because he's going in there tearing out, basically ripping off his own company with all these little gadgets and stuff. So I guess at this point, that Bruce's gadgets, he's either stealing them without Lucius Fox or he's just masterminding his own stuff without Bruce Wayne's using his money, putting all this stuff together his own.
Or he's not using Wayne Foundation money. He's using or a Wayne Industries money. He's using his own money. Which is weird to say, but he's using the money that he pays himself to fund all this rather than using company funds.
Yeah, so I guess he designed his own Batmobile and sent off to China to get it made, I suppose.
So do they ever?
Taiwan.
Right, it's pretty much.
Batmobile.
They explain it in Batman Begins. Like he orders a
Everybody-
piece of the cowl from one thing, he orders in bulk. So he's got like 5,000 cowls, 5,000 masks, 5,000 cape.
Oh yeah.
They're all just sitting in a room somewhere in a warehouse in the cave.
in an
Alfred's
IKEA,
like, not
an
again.
IKEA cupboard, flat pack cupboard that he's put up when he's building the
Batman
cave.
discovered.
And they have
He's
to
got a
put
storage
Alfred
pod that he
in the warehouse.
hides in the Batcave somewhere. He's got all the extras there.
Because if
And then
I remember
Alfred's like,
Batman
not the
begins,
warehouse again.
if I remember Batman Begins correctly, Lucius Fox is let into everything, or is brought into the fold. Do they ever bring him into the fold in the animated series, or?
I
don't
think
remember.
when they do it, it's just he's already accepted it later on. I don't think they explain it on screen. I think later he's just part of it, but he's not. He's still a guest character, but he's more with it. He's just not fully integrated as it goes on. It's like he's there, but he's not fully there. It's like he's more of an extra in the series.
It's kind of like
I think
Robin.
once,
Yeah,
I think when Batgirl starts making an appearance, I think we get Gordon a little bit more involved, and I think Lucius Fox
Gordon
becomes
gets
more involved. So these
more
secondary
involved.
characters start becoming more knowing.
Yeah, Bullock, by that point, I think series 4, he's more accepting of Batman. This is when he was all anti-Bat and everything at this point.
Mhm.
Well, we'll start seeing that turn in Bullock soon. Like,
Yeah.
I can already tell. It's
Literally
starting.
in
It's
the-
starting.
the-
The seeds are right. He's
Well,
back.
we'll get to that.
We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah. With saying that brings us to Vendetta, which is Detective Bullock is arrested for kidnapping Batman, who dislikes Bullock but nevertheless believes him to be a good man. Investigates and discovers the identity of the real criminal, Killer Croc, who harbors a vendetta against Bullock for capturing him once. Batman must clear Bullock's name before it's too late. So, Matthew, what are your thoughts about Vendetta?
Now, Vendetta, it was like the turning point for like the animated series for Detective Harvey Bullock, because up until this point he was very much I don't like Batman, he's not my hero, I don't want him associated with anything. Then in this story it's just got some great humor, like you've got Killer Croc literally dressing as Bullock at one point, which is absolutely ridiculous, but it's brilliant. You've got like, oh, there's a bomb like planted by Bullock. And like, no, he'd never do such a thing. Oh, give over. He's not this menace you're making him out to be from Gord. He's like, give him the benefit of the doubt, let him off. Any other normal cop would have been arrested from this kind of like charge. But no, I think we're on like what I'd call the rogues gallery era of Batman. This is, besides Mr. J, this is starting to look at everyone else. This is Killer Croc's turn. In this iteration, he's not Waylon Jones. He's like some kind of different version of Killer Croc at this point, but he's a former wrestler. But the comedy, it's like 1 minute it's really menacing, and then you've got like this thing called Spider, who's like one of the squealers, and he's terrified of him. He's like, "No, don't hurt me!" Ah! It's like in the cave, and it's like, "Don't hurt me! Get back, you animal!" And it's like that kind of thing, and it's like, this is really comedic again. But what I enjoy from like this series is like when Batman's being incredibly comical, you know it's going to be a good episode. Like in the last one, when he dropped the guy in the pool, he had like this incredible voice changer. This one, it's like, oh, he's looking through the stuff in the office, and you see Bullock sweating really badly. He's like, oh, I'll show him about my old vendetta. And it's like, you really didn't look for your file, Bullock. It's like you got like possessive and he left and he was disbanded. I think this is when it's the turning point. The villains have all got like great origin stories. You're finding out like Bullock was at the center of like a massive case and they were trying to cover it up. And you do hear as well, like the last one, it was relevant to drugs. Here's like you're protecting a police officer, giving him the benefit of doubt, innocent until guilty, which is very rare.
Hinged on that toothpick.
Oh yeah, that very
nobody
funny.
who works on a dock who can't smoke ever chews on toothpicks or anything like that.
Oh no, I think that was the great
Worst
thing. Like
circumstance
Killer
we've had
Croc
since
knew the
worst.
ins and out of Bullock's traits, so he could easily frame him. So
Right.
That
so they
and-
believed him.
That
So-
and eating in every scene that he's in. Those are his two traits.
Oh
apparently.
yes. Well,
He did
that's
not
the
eat in this
interesting
one.
thing.
I was surprised. He lost his appetite as soon as he got accused. I'm guessing because he did not.
Oh
want to
yeah,
be
he didn't
accused.
eat for this week, but like what's interesting to connect this quickly back to the Clayface one. So you had Bruce set up in the last one. This you got Bullock set up. So it's interesting. Like you got a police person being set up, and you got the most famous rich person that somehow nobody knows is Batman was being set up, which always amused me that nobody could tell from that jawline and voice it's Bruce. But
Jawline. That jawline is not as square as it gets, doesn't it?
There's so much in this one. There's so much inconsistent. Like when he's, how many professional wrestlers turned reptilian villains are there in Gotham City? that Batman.
I gotta see this wrestling federation. It's wacky in Gotham.
But here's the
I
thing.
was assuming he was Mexican. I mean, that could make sense.
I can see that as a luchador. He could definitely be a luchador.
No, I think what kills me the most of it is like, say they look on the press and it says Killer Croc's like a famous wrestler. It's like Bruce is like, how come I've never heard of Killer Croc?
But he knows him because he thinks of him when he thinks of the crocodile.
Now, that was what we were saying. Is he? Did he not think of him because he was so low level?
There's a crock pot.
The crock pot. Yeah, he finally thought, thanks for making my dinner in the crock pot.
Triggered in his brain that it's probably Killer Croc, who he's never heard of. B was a famous wrestler. C was fucking headline news when he was caught. How?
Okay, I think what he was saying was I didn't know of him because he was so low level, and then when he got caught, it was in the back of his mind, and he didn't know him until Alfred made his friend
smile. What also made me smile was like when he called Alfred, "You genius," he said, and Alfred with his famous wits, like, "Oh, well, I bet he'd wonder what I'd think if I said about the salad." And it's like, is that all you're thinking, Alfred? Is your compliments?
That being said, I bet that French onion soup is fantastic. I bet he made it perfectly.
No,
big
I
ass
think
crouton right in there. It'd be great.
Yeah, I think
good hard to get French onion soup wrong.
I think what makes Bruce and Alfred so great on this show is like they've got both two different sense of humors, and you don't expect Batman to be funny, but when it's like Alfred, you genius, and you're like, why is this so funny? It shouldn't be, but it is. It's their dynamic.
I forget if it was this one or the next one. Batman has a little moment where he swings in through a window and he accidentally falls in front of a woman in a robe.
That lady's sitting there going, yeah.
And even he
like, thank you, God.
Gives a little smile on his way out. Like,
it's the next one because it's when he when he's going to save Robin, him, so he swings in through the window.
But you're right. They're slipping more of a personality into Batman more than just he's slowly becoming more comfortable in the suit, and the Playboy is starting to mingle a little bit with it.
He's in there still, though.
Series 1 is very interesting compared to the rest of it. It seems like they're having fun. They're trialing the market each week. Even if there's dark story, there's like comedy compared to like the rest of it as it goes on.
Yeah.
Like
I kind of wish they had more of a origin story for Killer Croc to understand why he turned into a crocodile.
Yeah, they just said half fishman who worked in the. It was Carney.
I mean, is he a man walking around in a Godzilla outfit? And that's why he's Killer Croc.
Why is he doing the baby
crocodile?
They mentioned he was in the sideshow, and then he became a wrestler.
He's a Carney turned pro wrestler, so he's a Carney turned Carney.
Oh, okay.
But when he did the baby doll stuff, it gets even weirder than that. But we'll get to that one.
That's been god.
Yeah, because I mean, it's good to see Bollock front and center.
I'm happy that Bullock got a full Bullock episode. He's a character that he's very irritable. It's a one-note joke. He's the cop that hates Batman. For every Gordon who understands what Batman's doing, you got to have one that's the hard nose. No,
what's interesting?
I never took it as he hates Batman as much as it's more. He's a vigilante who doesn't have to answer to anybody, so he's allowed to break all the rules that I have to follow.
Yeah.
He's like,
because Bollocks is about going by the rules, and he's a rules man. You follow the rules. These are the rules. You stick to them. You can't break them.
Him and Batman did finally have an understanding now, because at least
they start to.
That was a great ending.
It's a smidge, but it's a start.
It's the beginning of you're all right.
There's a little bit more in a previous episode, I forget which one, but now he saves Bullock. So Bullock's like, wait a minute, maybe I've got this guy wrong because he's got every reason to let me fry here, and he doesn't.
Right.
Even Batman admits, it's like, look, I didn't know you're not guilty. As far as I know, you were. But
yeah, and that's what makes this a stronger ending than the Clayface one. The Clayface one was left open from the door to continue, and this one, it's more or less like them finally building mutual trust and respect for each other after him wanting him arrested from the first time he heard of him, the first time he wanted to meet him. First time they met, he was like, no, you're going to jail. We're about, 21 episodes in here, and it's starting to change the win for him.
I mean, that's one good thing about the animated series
Al.
anyway, is that character changes do carry throughout the rest of the series, which is quite nice. You know, it's not like what it used to be, like you watch, you know, superhero cartoons or TV shows, and whatever happened, basically the next season would come and nothing's changed. Like was never any interaction going on. All the characters are exactly the same week after week, whether you're watching Matlock or Macmillan and Wife or Artar or Batman or superheroes or Wonder Woman.
This show and X-Men kind of started changing that, because X-Men was even more like, these stories were more self-contained. Once X-Men came out, it just became all about, you know, the greater series, and everything leads into something else, to the point where if you missed it when you were a kid, that was it. You kind of missed a chapter, and it kind of, I got to wait like 4 or 5 weeks because if I want the whole story. But yeah, it is nice to see some kind of ramifications for everything that's going on, because like you said, it was everything resets, and I always dislike that about most television, is that everything just resets at the end. Nothing matters.
All over. It doesn't build on each other at all.
Well, I mean, that's also a product. I guess that's also a product of the '90s, anyway. I think TiVo kind of helped that along.
Yeah,
but Buffy, with shows like Buffy and things like that, where now today every show is a soap opera now, anyway.
Basically.
Yep. Now, I think what's great with these episodes as well is it's more detective Batman, so he's doing a lot more investigation work. I mean, one bit I forgot to highlight from the last episode was when he was holding that guy, that one that was the germaphobe, like, to hostage. It was seawater, and he made it out like it was a germ thing.
Hitting the wall.
Yeah, he's like, you have 2 more chances, and then he's like, last chance, and he's so petrified, and it's just seawater. It's like, this is Batman's threatening sense of humor coming out. It's like, oh, okay, I know what makes him tick. Now let's see if we can do this while making the audience laugh unintentionally.
Batman with the biochemical warfare.
Yeah,
that was just, again, that's what I mean.
Seawater.
And he's using less gadgets as this series has gone on. It's more detective Batman, which is what he's famously known for. And I think as the show goes on, it's more about the gadget side, like James Bond, when it goes on more.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of the same with any major franchise. You got to keep reinventing it, and what the little things that people like, whether it be the gadgets, the bad rings.
I think Series 4 though is the funniest design that they were sharing with the Animaniacs. I think that's why it looks that way for the final series.
Yeah. God, I got to go back and when we get to it, I can't wait to see it again, because it's been years since I've seen the later seasons of these.
We're almost coming up to the end of the first.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this brings us to fear of victory. The Scarecrow invents a fear chemical that is activated by adrenaline. Then he uses it to affect the outcome of athletic events. Whenever a single person becomes agitated, the fear chemical kicks in, turning his excitement to fear. The Scarecrow bets against the sports stars teams as part of his criminal scheme to scare up some quick cash, and Batman and Robin must foil his plot. So, Joe, what are your thoughts about fear of victory?
Watching it, I kind of felt like, is this what we've reduced Scarecrow to? Is he gets out of Arkham and uses his powder to uses his fear chemicals to to bet on
the rig sporting events.
Sporting events.
Well, he was making money at it though.
Yeah, he's
so
got to
he had a
build some
plan.
capital. He got
They
wiped
do,
out.
they do. It's funny because I was mentioning to Sean, and then like a couple scenes later, they're like, he mentions himself to Batman. Well, this is how I got to rebuild some
Chemicals
money.
aren't going to pay for themselves.
That's right.
That's
He's
what it was.
such an ugly character
Chemicals
too.
aren't cheap was the line or something. He had to rebuild his capital so he could buy more. So then he could have the more, the more.
I liked how they went in. They showed who was like who was in prison through the glass.
They finally kind of introduced an idea, or at least the theory in the viewer's minds, of how easy it is to get out of Arkham, because all you have to do
Well,
that's the one order you watch and everything.
Yeah.
It is not
Yeah.
hard at all, even in
No.
the 60s series. Like how
That
the
was-
hell? Wait, didn't Joker just try to take over the world 5 episodes ago, and now he's out on the streets again?
They had
Okay,
Poison
the
Ivy.
Joker's-
She was in there still. Who else did they show us? Poison Ivy.
Poison Ivy,
Joker.
Joker.
Harvey Dent,
Yeah.
and that's it because they haven't really introduced the Riddler yet.
No.
No,
No,
And,
that hasn't come there.
Did we get we got Penguin once, I think, so
We got-
far.
Penguin. But I
Yeah,
don't-
but Penguin
They didn't show
Penguin
Mr.
was
Freeze.
but Penguin's more of a crime lord kind of a thing
Yeah,
at the
he's
moment.
about
Two
to
prison
type.
in Arkham.
Yeah, he does. He's very rarely gets his hands dirty. So
We
I mean, he
didn't
does
see
get his hands
Catwoman.
dirty a little bit because he had that big bird thing coming after the children.
That's right.
So yeah, we had that. I mean, I always like the Scarecrow anyway because I think the Scarecrow is more of a clever villain anyway. I mean, to use people's fears against them. The only thing I can sit there and say is that Robin is very whiny in this episode.
Well, because he gets scared because he had a contact.
Yeah, but I
lens.
think the trouble is that as you'll see from this point forward, Robin's character starts changing and evolving, and then of course when we get to his origin story, after that point, Robin becomes more of a character, and then we'll get to his dissatisfaction with working with Batman. That starts coming through as well.
Yes, the
So-
Nightwing
Because
era.
Batman never includes him in any adventures. Is that why he becomes dissatisfied?
Well, that's the vibe I'm getting. I'm like, he's away at university, so I
He's
mean,
at
like, he doesn't get
university,
to
so he's
Then
so
we have
that's the
summer
reason why
break.
the reason why Robin's not around is because he's at university. So when he comes home during the summers and school holidays, that's when they're fighting crime together. So Robin's a little bit older than what we anticipated him to be.
He's not a kid, really.
Yeah, he's somewhere between 18 and 20 at the moment. So
Yes, he would have to be.
so
They don't have his
So-
origin story yet, though.
Not yet.
but they also I think that's next month or the month after. But what we do have here is Robin. I still think they're still trying to map him out a little bit. So they're giving a little bit of backstory that he's at university, and that's the reason why
He
the
had a
college
fear of
football.
heights when he should have had a fear of heights and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but he did come across. I think the guy who does his voice doesn't have his voice. Robin's voice
Did his
becomes a
voice.
bit
Oh,
becomes
Lauren
better as it goes
Lester.
along. Yeah, but he's a bit whiny here. And even,
yeah.
even like at the
Yeah,
beginning,
we were all whiny.
even before the fear gas hits him, he's a bit whiny.
Yeah, I think he gets more better when they get into the Nightwing era on this show more than Robin. But that's why Tim Drake's more of the iconic Robin with this show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we kind of get that, so the Robin, and I think that they are kind of Robin's still quite new to this universe, and I think the actor, Lauren, is getting his feet, basically trying to establish his character, which in the next couple of episodes you'll see Robin's voice start changing and becoming a bit more Robin-esque, I guess. I'm not and more of a college more like college Robin than puberty Robin, because he sounds like puberty Robin in this. Like, oh my god, okay.
I think they're still trying to portray him as not yet a man, but he's still the kind of a kid, but in between, And I think that's why you see all the indecisiveness and stuff. And I mean, he was an easy target for that poison too, because he's still kind of an unknown character. We don't really have a background on him yet, but most people know that he, came from a family of acrobats. Ergo, he didn't want to be. I mean, it's like when he was hanging onto the side of the structure, the building. You know, and Batman.
It
is
took about-
tossing them. But then
I mean, I
people
found
were
it-
throwing gargoyles at them, though. So that would probably upset me hanging on the side of the
Those
building.
thieves are
too.
really good at breaking off gargoyles.
Yeah,
I know.
It's real easy.
It must have been in the poor
Those
side of town.
crowbars-
Non-union
crowbars
job.
are
That's what it
breaking through
was.
that concrete,
Mm.
man.
Yeah.
I know. Didn't really like they weren't really putting too much weight into it. They were just
Go
kind of
elbow
like
work into those crowbars.
launching them.
That's it.
They were kind of
And
launching them over.
And then this is when Batman swings into the woman's window, like you guys were mentioning.
Yes.
He made the Animal House reference of "Thank you, Lord."
Thank you, Lord. Yeah. You remember that? I always get a kick out of that with that girl. Said, "Thank you, Lord."
But yeah, I mean, overall, out of the four, I kind of like this one the most.
So did I.
Because I kind of just I like the absurdity of this one.
And it was more fun. It wasn't as serious though, too. I
Yeah,
mean,
I think
Delve
this
back
was
into
the
Arkham.
days when they were trying to Scarecrow.
Sorry, so you can continue.
So this is more the days when they were trying out Scarecrow because he's not the fear master like Freddy Krueger, like how he is later. This is
right.
more comical. One of my favorite quotes from this episode, when he's in jail, he sees Hardy says, "Good evening, my child. Worship me, fools." It's like, what? Why are you like telling people to worship you when you're arrested?
You're right. Yeah, that
This
was
is-
kind of. I didn't catch that. I didn't know
No,
what he
he
meant
did-
by that.
He's very more comical for like a doctor that's literally become like this equivalent of like the horror scene, and yet he's too comical. And yet when you see him as it goes on, you see the fear gas change into his iconic persona. Jonathan Crane is one of the greatest Batman villains, but not yet. This was more like when he was a low-level villain working his way through the ranks. When they redesign him from looking like an actual Scarecrow, I mean, his redesign was more terrifying when he's like the Grim Reaper with a giant scythe in Series 4, and it's like, that's the Scarecrow. This is budget Scarecrow till we get to him.
It's kind of like Harley Quinn last
Right.
month. You know, you're getting like the early iterations of these characters that are eventually going to become, like massive, major parts of the universe.
Of course.
So yeah, it does that. It does give you a little basis for the Scarecrow, which I think this is what the second or third time we're seeing him in this.
I think it's the
Yeah,
Second.
but I think this is more featured episode because he's been mainly like a guest star of the week in some of them, like where he's just turned up like for a cameo.
I need to start making like a little flow chart of which villains we're getting, so we can kind of.
But
Well,
I
yeah,
think
I'll
this
figure
is
it
when
out.
they're building the Rogues Gallery, as it's now called, where you're seeing each Batman villain of the week. Like you see that origin in Series 1 and Series 2. It's more about them like starting to fully develop.
Yeah. I mean,
A little bit of
I like the. I mean, I always like the Scarecrow. I mean, even when you see the Scarecrow out of his getup and he's in his human form, he's still he's a very weird looking character.
Ugly. He's got that. It's the smile, you know.
smile, yeah, the
And the
crooked
beat
and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks like an anorexic Jim Bob Walton.
Kind of.
I'm revisiting Twin Peaks right now, and he kind of reminds me at this point of Russ Tamblin's Dr. Jacoby. I just can't. I just kind of a little strung out on his own pills, on his own meds. Slowly getting a little bit more out there, a little bit more wonkier as it goes on. And that's just kind of what the vibe I'm getting from him. And it's kind
But
of
I'd say what
fascinating.
I like with this first series, like we've covered, Clayface was fun because you're seeing like the tragedy of the gentleman who's become into this giant monster. You're seeing Killer Croc, who's some kind of circus ensemble that turned restless somehow. So in Gotham, you can have more on one thing on your CV. And then Jonathan Crane, it seems like he's the Joker at this point. He's cracking jokes, he's having fun, but with Freddy Krueger's edge until later. So it's like they're trying to establish these as all fun right now, but they've got some dark tragedies on the top, but back in the background. So you think about that stuff later.
Right.
Yeah.
I think when they won their Emmy for Heart of Ice, which would come after the series came out, I think that's when they realized it's like, okay, we can do stuff with our villains now because that won so many awards. So I think with the Mr. Freeze episode, I think that's when they realized is like, well, we can
Funny
actually
enough, that was
do
Mark
this.
Hamill's first thing he recorded for Batman. He was the villain of that story, the one that turned him into Mr. Freeze.
Oh yeah, he was.
Yeah, chronologically for him, that was the first thing he recorded, but Joker came out first because of this whole production order being out of order.
Yeah, because they did the Christmas one first, didn't they? So
yes, where Joker just randomly busts out with a tree singing. Yes, someone you gave my favorite joke of Mark when the Killing Joke happened. He said the only way you'd ever get Mark Hamill back is if he's allowed one singing number per Joker.
I'm okay with that. He's hilarious.
Oh, he is.
Yes.
Are you looking for a graphic design that will take you to the next level? Or something that shows confidence within a growing market to help you stand out amongst the crowd? Amazing Designs gives consistent and on-brand designs whether you are looking for something conservative or you want to let your imagination soar. They bring professionalism to a high standard and they are able to visualize your ideas and give them that extra edge. Working one-on-one with their designers will give you a design that will live up to your expectations and more. Affordable, expert designs for all occasions, whether it's logos, brochures, or whatever you can dream of. Amazing Designs is your to-go place for creativity and hands-on expertise. Try Amazing Designs today. Contact them via email at amazingdesigns505@gmail.com. That's amazingdesigns505@gmail.com, or reach out by phone at country code 1-805-203-0427. We love them so much here at the Literary License Podcast that we use them ourselves.
But I'd rather be different than be the same.
So I guess this brings us to who's our favorite character and our least favorite character of this Batman episode. Starting with you, Vicky. Who's your favorite character and your least favorite character?
Least favorite. I don't have any least favorite characters in this slot. If I had to pick,
What about Marlon Brando? He appears in this.
we were joking about
John
Probably
Vernon,
the-
Rupert
probably
Thorne.
Croc.
Yes.
probably the Killer Croc, because I don't know if you didn't seem out of place. Kind of seemed out of place. He seemed kind of random for some reason to me. I don't know why, but I didn't hate him. But he isn't my favorite villain so far. But favorite? Are we going on favorite and or what's
Yeah,
that?
you got your,
Yeah,
you got your favorite
favorite-
one now.
I don't know why we do this all the time. I'm gonna have to go with I can't say Robin was my favorite character this time around. I'm gonna go with we didn't even have the Joker really.
we
se.
did just very briefly, not really.
Yeah. I love James Gordon, but we didn't have him that long. Bob Hastings, James Gordon, he wasn't even really in there. I don't really
briefly in the Killer Croc episode. Otherwise, I don't think he was in it at all. Was he?
Okay. I'm gonna go with I don't know. I don't have any. I'm gonna go with I can't even go with Batman because he's on it all the time. I'm probably
You can say if
probably
Batman
gonna
was
go
your
with-
favorite. If Batman,
I'm
was
gonna
your favorite
probably go with
character-
Roland Daggett because he's such a he's the drug dealer of the group, I guess. I mean, let's root for the bad guy here. I mean, he's got
That's another thing. That was another thing I completely forgot. You had him and Rupert Thorne, two established Batman villains. It was funny. You had like the main mobsters across these two episodes.
Yeah, well, he's got
Love
he's doing the
them.
black marketeering. We're gonna see more of him, I'm assuming, considering
Mhm.
I don't remember a lot of these cartoons because it's been a while, but that's where I'm going with that. And as far as my favorite episode would be the one we just covered, because I got a kick out of watching everybody have their biggest fear be, amplified by touching, the scary poison. But I mean, it was sort of like getting anthrax with a kick, I guess. But it was a great episode. I thought it was entertaining. It wasn't as serious and it wasn't as deep as the others, but it was fun.
What about yourself, Sean? Who's your favorite character and least favorite character?
I think my favorite character, I'm going back and forth between Clayface and Scarecrow. I think it would be Scarecrow. He just having fun. That you could tell that the actor was having a lot of fun with the script this go around.
Yeah.
And it was enjoyable to watch. I am looking forward to seeing Ron Perlman as Clayface going forward, but I just think as far as the first,
Because he sticks it out through the series, right?
so.
Kind of.
I could be mistaken, but I think he does.
Yes.
And
Because he didn't really start taking off until the universes took off, really.
yeah,
Did he?
I don't believe so, no. But I think I'm pretty sure he's him going forward, and probably the least or my least favorite. And I think it's just the episode overall was my least favorite, would probably be Killer Croc. Not that Killer Croc's a bad character.
No, he's not.
Not that it was bad in the role. I just think the whole episode kind of felt off in a way. Something about it felt a little bit more slow and it wasn't as memorable. I tried rewatching it again this morning and I fell asleep.
Well, the one memorable part about it that I liked is when he pulls out that light at the end, and illuminates it all with, I don't know if it's infrared light and appeared to be infrared, but
Oh yeah.
it got kind of interesting toward the end.
Oh yeah, no, the fight scenes and the way that Batman outsmarts him, I appreciated using the bright lights and the sewer and everything, and taking advantage of the darkness, and that was good. I guess
they're still getting their sea legs, so to speak.
Pretty much.
What about yourself, Joe? Who's your favorite character and least favorite character?
Least favorite is probably Robin in this case, because I don't like that they just bring him out whenever they feel like it.
I was going to ask you guys about that. It's random when he shows up for me.
It kind of feels cheap. It feels like let's just
he's in and out.
Like he's only there when when it's when it feeds the plot, and I get that. Okay, he's away at university, but it's just. I never really liked that.
Is he always away at university in the background?
Like,
even in the beginning?
Well, he
becomes a regular feature, and after next month, you'll see that he becomes a regular feature.
But I mean, he's always technically in the background, right? He's just his character was not developed until.
No, he not next month, but the month after, he'll become he'll be a regular.
I think we've only talked about him maybe 3 times total on the podcast. I think he's only been in like 3 episodes.
He's only been in one.
One other one.
He's
been in the Christmas one. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is the only time. The second time since the very first one. So I just kind of feel like it's kind of lazy. Like you just kind of pull him out when it suits the script, and then he just kind of disappears again. And I get why.
It really depends on this production order they had planned. I mean, if you watch it in the order it's meant to be, it's solo Batman, then Robin arrives later. Right. So if you go by production order,
it's confusing.
If you go by the way it was meant to be, Robin's meant to be joining around now. Instead, Batman's supposed to be on his own for ages. So because we're doing it normally, that's why it's all feeling like in and out.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, because Batman becomes Batman and Robin.
Yeah,
the series does.
3rd or 4th season, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's probably my least favorite here. He's also, like Keith said, he's very whiny throughout the whole thing.
I'd be whiny too. I'm afraid of heights.
Well, he's an acrobat, isn't he?
Well, he was an acrobat, supposedly.
So yeah, he's my least favorite. My favorite, and this is where, man, like I feel like there were slim pickings for this go round, man. Like of all the 4 episode sets, I feel like we just got like the weakest chunk of them here. I kind of want to go with Clayface, probably just because there really isn't that much to choose from. Like they don't give Lucius Fox much to do. I think this is the first time we're seeing him. Scarecrow's funny, but nothing really to write home about. And Clayface at this point kind of feels like a retread because they did the Gray Ghost a few episodes ago.
Okay.
So it kind of feels like you're kind of retreading the same ground again. Down on his luck actor.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't think of that one. You're right, though.
Also, there is one thing that I forgot to bring up during the Scarecrow episodes. And it goes back. We bring this up every time. When is this taking place? Because they're playing football with leather helmets.
Oh yeah, the leather. It's like the 40s. It's like the 30s and 20s, well, actually the 20s and 30s and 40s,
30s, yeah.
but they've got technology, so it's really, what are they doing? They're just combining
It is
universes
so
together.
weird. I like that we have to ask this every month because I think it's actually kind of one of the more interesting
Well, they
things.
stick with the 40s hairdos. Those are 40s hairdos for the most part.
Black and white sports blooper reels.
And the gangsters dressed like gangsters in 1930s movies. You know,
They've got the
they're
Tommy
walking around in full
guns.
suits. They got the Tommy guns. Yeah. So I'm kind of having fun with that aspect of it. But then you have television, you have video, you have all this other stuff that's more modern. So that's kind of interesting about it too. But yeah, I guess Clayface would have to be, I probably would have the Clayface that I'm more familiar with had more classic horror references to it, and this one didn't. I feel like I was kind of let down by that. I don't feel like any of these 4 episodes were very memorable.
They're not like the other ones were. That's why I was having a hard time coming up with characters. Like, I'm not ready for this.
Vicky was struggling too, coming up with her favorite character, and I'm like, wow, what am I even going to say for this one? Because with all the other batches of episodes, there was always like at least one that like stood out as like this is like the gem of this group of 4, and I am so hard pressed to find that with this.
Like
one.
Mr. Freeze, there was like a million things about those episodes you could just
the Heart of Ice episode was the easy standout there. The Gray Ghost was the easy standout there. Was the one with the kids in the sewer with the kind of Oliver
the Oliver Twist thing.
That was that really stood out. So this is strange. I'm like, I really cannot find like a favorite on this one. I just got to give it to Clayface because, well, it's something they're trying, but it just feels so close to the Gray Ghost. It feels like they kind of did the same thing
It
twice.
does, but it's not, though, because the Gray Ghost had a little more class and a little more chutzpah. This is just a blob, a gelatinous blob of drug-induced mania, basically.
I think I may have gone in and I didn't get what I was expecting, and that might have soured me a little bit on it. And I don't know if that might be the case.
It is.
What about yourself, Matthew? What's your favorite and least favorite character?
I think because it's been ages since I've watched these, but go back into it. The Clayface one still stands as my favorite because it's that whole side. Like when you're watching it, it's an actor who is on desperation. He wants to do anything he can to stay in the film industry, and he basically sacrificed his humanity, which you hear consistently about. Is like when people say actors are horrible people, and that came through in Matt's character. You literally watch him. He probably was such a nice gentleman before the actual episodes occurred, and by taking the Renuyu, it horrified him. Like he got anger issues. It's like he transformed into like one of those actors you hear about that you don't want to hear about. Nice to the camera because they're there for the money. That's exactly what he was there for. He was there for money and keeping his fame relevant. I would say I love the sound effects in this as well. I mean, episode 1, it gets marked down because of how they treated Lucius. But episode 2, it's just a really strong episode for Clayface, really. But I will say the humor made up for it, especially as I said earlier, when he had the guy's car literally on the edge of the Batwing, and he's so terrified, and it's just so like, if you saw that in real life, it'd be just too hysterical watching a plane with a car like that. It'd be just so funny. I'd think, for me personally, if we look at the 3 episodes, Killer Croc, they didn't have an origin for him at all. I think literally add more to his character as he goes on. It's like they'd finished his story when you're watching it, and it's like, okay, this is his debut, and you don't really know much about him.
No.
Where in the 3rd episode, Jonathan Crane is like a comedic clown. It's like they literally just swapped the Joker for this week's episode. So he's normally the master of fear. So I'd think out of the 3 of them, Clayface is probably the strong contender. The weak link is probably the Bullock story, because you don't know anything about Killer Croc really, apart from him being a wrestler. And that him and Bullock are at odds, which they don't really dive into in the later series, so that kind of marks it down. But least favourite character, I don't think there was any least favorite in these three stories for me. I just think writing wise, I'd think the strongest happened to be the two-parter, because when you've watched them as a whole, you're watching a great sadness, like Harvey Dent when he had the whole thing that happened to him. It's like, this is what I'd call the tragedy series for Batman, where there sure is comedic moments, but a lot of these villains have got such tragic origins.
They
And
do.
as it goes on, it tries to be a lot more funner. So I'd say Clayface for me was the winner for this week, followed by Crane, followed by Killer Croc.
There was one thing you mentioned the whole thing with the car on the edge of the plane. It makes sense that Batman has a microphone so that the guy in the car, the thug in the car, could hear him. But how's Batman hearing his responses?
Oh, I was crying with laughter when he was like, "What? How did they know where I was?" And then he just bolted out of there.
I mean, I thought with that episode, it was good to see Reggie Mantle from the Archies have an adult starring role as Cans, the henchman with the headphones on, because I mean we haven't seen him since the Archies, and yeah, but I do feel sorry for Reggie Mantle because I do think that poor actor is now being typecast. So, but no, my favorite I guess my favorite character would have to be Scarecrow, because I like the whole human-esque version of Scarecrow and what he stands for. My least favorite probably has to be a bit more Daggett, because his character doesn't make a lot of sense for me. And every time I see him, I do think Marlon Brando is kind of funny, but I kind of wish maybe it's because I want Daggett to talk like Marlon Brando in The Godfather. Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. But it's only because it's kind of like they're kind of using Daggett to kind of glue things together, and he doesn't really glue the episode together like I think they wanted him to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it feels like it just felt like part one. When you watch, it feels like it's an amalgamation of stories they didn't have time for. They collated that to part one, and part two was the proper story.
I would like the crocodile episode more if they need to draw that character out, because it does. Because I think, I mean, if he was the Croc, and let's sit there and say he was in human form, and I think that would be different. But because he's an anamorph, you kind of need a backstory for an anamorph character. You know, if he looks like a crocodile, he's walking like a crocodile, and he's a crocodile on two legs and feet.
And he has no story. He has none.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I mean, even Lobster Man and Lobster Boy, and during the freak shows, I mean, they had like little hands that were kind of like glued together, and they were real like circus freaks,
right?
You know, or the human torso, or or even the bearded lady. Okay, you don't need that much of a background story for like in a circus sideshow, but if you're born and you look like a bloody crocodile, then you kind of need more of a backstory than
it's like, what happened? Did your mother drop you on your head, or what happened?
Precisely. You know, so you kind of needed that penguin backstory from Batman Returns. Deformed baby being dumped into the sewers by the parents or something.
Right.
So you kind of need the backstory.
And then Pee Wee Herman shows back up for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the guy who played. That's Paul Rubens who played his dad in it, and then he played the Penguin on Gotham's dad again.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did.
It's so funny that officially now in any universe it's Paul Rubens who's the father of the Penguin.
In any universe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It should be.
Apparently Penguin was conceived in a movie theater.
Yeah, that he cleared off from him. So the real Penguin is the one on Gotham. So he dumped the DeVito Penguin.
Well, this brings us to the end of the Literary License Podcast. Batman next week will be covering the episodes The Clock King, Appointment in Crime Alley, Mad as a Hatter, and Dreams in Darkness. And of course, next week will be our Make Remake series. We'll be covering Scarface from 1932 and Scarface from 1983. And of course, our M&M Madness and Monsters will be covering
Badlands.
Ooh, M,
M
from
and
the first Langs
Badlands.
film from 1931, and Badlands from 1973. And of course, our next book to screen will be To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, and the film starring Gregory Peck. And don't forget, we also be continuing on with Keys of Marinus, which will be our Doctor Who storyline that will be on taping in the next 2 weeks. So it's good night for myself. Good night, Vicky.
Night, everybody. Take care.
Good night, Matthew.
Good night from Gotham City and Arkham Asylum.
Good night, Joe.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Sean.
Good night, everybody.
And we see you next week for Scarface from 1932 and Scarface from 1983. See you all later.
I wanna be rich and I want lots of money. I don't care about clever, I don't care about funny. I want loads of clothes and fuck loads of diamonds. I heard people die while they're trying to find them. And I'll take my clothes off and it will be shameless, cause everyone knows that's how you get famous. I'll look at the sun and I'll look in the mirror. I'm on the right track, yeah, I'm on to a winner. I don't know what's right and what's real anymore. And I don't know how I'm meant to feel anymore. When do you think it will all become clear? 'Cause I'm being taken over by the fear. Life's about film stars and less about mothers. It's all about fast cars and cussing each other. But it doesn't matter, cause I'm packing plastic. And that's what makes my life so fucking fantastic. And I am a weapon of massive consumption. And it's not my fault, it's how I'm programmed to function. I look at the sun and I look in the mirror. I'm on the right track, yeah, we're on to a winner. I don't know what's right and what's real anymore. And I don't know how I'm meant to feel anymore. When do you think it will all become clear? 'Cause I'm being taken over by the fear. Forget about guns and forget ammunition, 'cause I'm killing them all on my own little mission. Now I'm not a saint, but I'm not a sinner. And everything's cool as long as I'm getting thinner. I